Hey, what's up guys? Yesterday I did this barnwood accent wall and it is Friday morning and I'm getting ready to start setting these barn beam newel posts, and thought I'd show you some of those details on what I'm doing there, how I'm doing that, and kind of take you along for the ride. So I made these newel posts in my shop and distressed them. They're made from number 2 pine and I hand hew them to make them look like barn beams. But on the inside, they're just a hollow box. Now when setting newel posts, you want to look at you want to ask yourself, where are the lateral forces going to be applied to the newel posts, from which directions, and which newel posts are going to be more likely to get loose and wobbly down the road than others. As you look at this layout, I've got blocking inside that wall. So this post down here is going to be extremely strong because I've got that blocking with adhesive and screws. So once that's fastened in, it's not going anywhere. If I come down to the corner here, my handrail slash balusters are going to tie this corner post in from both directions. So this post is going to be very strong also. Here on this post, handrail is going to be tying this post in this way, so I'm going to have no problem with movement this way, but it could have issues this way if it got pushed on a lot. Not likely, but as you can see here, I've got this blocking drop down into the floor with PL and screws, and I'll show you more on that in a second. Walking around to this corner newel post, this post is also not going to have a lot of stress on it because it'll be tied in to that newel post by way of the handrail and balusters, and then also in the rake. So we're going to get lateral strength from both directions. The newel post that's going to potentially have the most issues is this bottom one down here, and you've really got to make sure you take care when setting newel posts like this, because everyone's going to fly down this stair at Mach 10 and want to grab that newel, and over time it could potentially get loose. So as you see, I've got blocking installed down here. So I set this blocking down here last night, and it's got a southern yellow pine. It was a 2x8 and I had to rip it to 5 3/4, which is the interior dimension of these newel posts. I use a ton of adhesive and then lag screws into this Hampton style knee wall here, and then also down into the floor. So that's going to be really solid. Looking up a little bit, you see that I've got this blocking installed and dropped down to the floor. The floor joist cavity comes down about 12 inches. So I dropped this post in with lots of PL adhesive and then screw it through the band board or LVL, whatever is running along here. And then you notice I marked here, this represents the bottom of my band board that'll run across here. So these screw holes will end up being hidden, but that's really strong, and it's going to help a lot on setting these. When it comes to notching newel posts, you really have to slow down, take your time, and make sure that you're paying attention to what you're doing. You only have the exact amount of newel posts typically, and making a mistake is just really not fun. Don't ask me how I know on that. I like to mark everything out very carefully with a pencil, and then I'll use my DeWalt cordless circular saw to make the main cuts and finish everything off with a jigsaw. Quick update. So as you can see, I've got all of my newel posts notched. I haven't permanently set them yet. They're just positioned in place. So what I'm going to do right now is go around, put a whole bunch of PL premium adhesive around the interior of the newel posts and on the blocking. I'll go ahead and nail those off. and then position the shoe rail in the 1x6 skirt around the bottom, and that also serves the purpose as it helps stabilize the newel posts and even square them up a little bit. Now, in my opinion, when it comes to setting newel posts, there are 3 things you need to know: PL premium, and more PL premium. If you get your PL premium done right with your blocking, the newel post will set up absolutely unbelievably solid. I love PL premium, and I use it all the time when setting newel posts. One other important note, an important thing to understand about the skirting and the shoe rail is it will also serve the purpose of helping to square up your newel posts and plumb your newel posts. As long as you're installing those level and your plumb and your cuts are cut square, it'll help everything lock together also, and will also give additional lateral strength to the newel posts. Part of this reason that you see me setting these skirting pieces and shoe rail pieces as I go along setting these newel posts is that I want to set those skirting pieces while the post is still wet setting in that PL premium, and it'll help plumb and square those posts if they're not quite perfect. As you see this southern yellow pine blocking that I have coming up out of the floor joist cavity, that is ripped the exact width of the inside of these posts. So whenever I slide these posts down over the top of that blocking, I'm being very careful to chamfer the inside edge of that post. If I leave it a sharp edge, it'll just push all of the adhesive off of the blocking, and that would be pretty pointless. So chamfering that edge helps the post slide down nice and smooth over that blocking. I'll show you the bad thing about working with highly distressed material like these newel posts and then trying to make cuts that are going to be perfectly straight on a miter saw is you run into stuff like this. So I'm cutting my shoe rail long, and then I'm going to scribe that so it fits the post better and we don't have that giant gap. And then after I've got it scribed, I'll actually take my hammer and beat on that edge to make it look a little bit more distressy, versus trying to make it look like everything is just perfect. It's got to be perfect, but you want to make it look like it's terrible at the same time. It's kind of tricky when working with rustic material like this. Just remember, the whole idea is for this to look rustic. So whenever you make square cuts with your miter saw, make sure you pound on them with your hammer to distress those cut edges, and it'll actually look a lot better than just having clean, crisp cuts. Like I said again, I'm a huge fan of PL Premium, and you get a ton of it in there and it'll really lock a post down hard as it cures. One thing that I am doing after I apply the bead to the sides of this pine blocking, I'm just taking a piece of scrap OSB and I'm smoothing it out, and that's going to help so that all of that adhesive doesn't just scrape off as I slide the post over the top. And again, here I'm easing the edges of the inside to help it slide over that PL a little bit better. Some guys are really big on using mechanical fasteners and plugging holes. I am not of that mindset with box newels. I feel that if you have really good internal blocking and use your PL Premium really well, just some nails and maybe some trim head screws can work just fine for installing these posts. And of course, the thing that you have to remember with posts like these is, it would just be kind of a pain to plug holes with these distressed beams, and it would be time consuming to re-distress those caps where I tried to put mechanical fasteners. So lots of PL, couple trim screws, and 2.5 inch 15 gauge nails works really well for me, and I'm very comfortable with that. Here I'm finishing up the last pieces of shoe rail and skirting 1x6, and I'm keeping that shoe rail up off the floor 3/8 of an inch, and that's going to allow the flooring to slide underneath that shoe rail, and I'm not planning on using shoe molding on the front of that. I should get a nice execution with the flooring just sliding underneath, and then the flooring guys will probably undercut my newel posts, since you obviously can't put shoe molding around a distressed barn beam and have it look decent. When it comes to skirt boards like this, you just want to get your angle, drop digital level on there, about 33 degrees. I got my length, I cut both ends, and now I just need to drop it in. But I kind of set it in and I see how much I want it to drop down, and then I'll take it off the bottom and kind of creep up on it. So this is probably going to be a little bit high still. You can always take more off. Cuts on the bottom look pretty good. On top. So you can see up here, I'm going to end up cutting this off square so it'll come off flat and then down. Down here, we're good. But I'm a little bit higher than I want to be right here. So I'm going to drop this down a little bit more. Now here's a trick some of you might find interesting. The top post is set permanently. This post right here is not. I've got it in position, but it is not set yet. So I've fitted this skirt board in and it's loose. I'm actually going to take it out and I'm going to trace it onto this 1x6 that'll go on the other side. That way they're exactly the same. I'll nail both pieces on and then come down here and set this post permanently. That way I can make sure I get it nice and tight up against these two skirting pieces. It's really important whenever you're installing a Hampton style wall cap like this that you get your skirting pieces on both sides perfectly aligned and perfectly level with each other so that that cap looks correct whenever you install it. Once I have these two pieces of skirting installed, I'll move on to setting this bottom newel post, and then we'll set the cap after that. Now with these skirt pieces in, I can set this post, this newel post, and just push it right up against these skirt board pieces and actually get a little adhesive in there too, which will also add to the strength. As I mentioned previously, out of all these newel posts, the one that will be most likely to have issues in the future is this one, because it doesn't have any lateral support from handrails tying into it side to side. So ensuring that you've got really good blocking is critical. After the PL Premium is applied, you can just slide the post right down and then very carefully and strategically push it up against those skirt board sections. And I've actually got adhesive between the newel post and the skirt board sections also, which will additionally help tie everything together. The nice thing about this particular post is I know I have carpet going in all the way around it, so I made sure to get adhesive between the newel post and the floor, and I know the flooring guys won't be undercutting this post, and that'll give additional strength. So now it's time for a pop quiz. I'm fitting this shoe rail cap on here, so I've got it cut long, it's fitted on the bottom, but I have to make this mitered cut right here. Pop quiz. Plumb cut was 33 degrees. What angle do I need to cut this for my miter? If you said 33 divided by 2, which would be 16.5, you are correct. And just for the record, I always cut test pieces because I can never remember. That's what these were for. All right, well, it's 11:30, about time for lunch. You see here, I went with a 1x6 cap over the top. The reason I did that is because I wanted to match the other boards up here as opposed to using a wider board and having it overhang the sides. I think this detail looks nice, so that's what I did. Gonna eat lunch. One other thing I wanted to mention before, there you are. One other thing I wanted to mention before I forget, whenever I hand hewed these posts, the direction that I went with the axe, I actually intentionally made so that these newel posts were all oriented the same way. And if you see here, I've got it so I can run my hand down this, no problem. The axe went up like this, and I did that because I think it'll be easier to clean this way, and it won't be, these chop marks won't be a dust ledge that way. So one little random detail. And one other thing before I eat lunch, the reason I left the cap off on top was because my thinking was then whenever I would do my handrail, I could screw from the inside of the post, which I do often. But the homeowners actually ended up changing their minds, and they actually don't want a wood handrail. It's all going to be pipe, and in this area there are no inspections for this, and that's what they want, so that's what they're going to get. So it's actually going to be a pipe for the top handrail all the way across here and down. So one of the other things I have to do is put the top cap back on these and distress those. All right guys, so almost done, got my skirt boards on, everything's getting buttoned up. Now I'm just putting on this top cap, and I just took some scrap pieces that were already kind of distressed, and I'm using my Hyper glue gun because I want it done fast. Hoping to get all this stuff done and buttoned up today. And it's about 3 o'clock on a Friday. So I'm hitting that real nice and heavy with Hyper, just popping that cap on there. Then I'll take my hand planer and just distress that corner, and we'll be good to go. As always, it's important to think a few steps ahead, so I had my Hyper gun plugged in well in advance and got it nice and hot for putting these caps on. One thing that I didn't get on video was distressing these top caps, but I essentially just glued them in and then used my portable cordless DeWalt planer to distress those edges, and that worked out pretty good. Hit them with sandpaper a little bit, and they don't need any more attention after that. All in all, I was really happy with the progress I made in one day on this. I got all the newel posts set along with the skirting going all the way around, so that just leaves the black pipe hand railing / balusters to install on Monday. So pretty good day, all things considered, also considering that I was videotaping the whole process also, which can be kind of a pain in the butt at times and lead to some mistakes, but this went pretty well. Stay tuned, and I'll also have another video coming on how I install the black pipe handrail / baluster sections. I think that'll actually be a really cool part of this project also. All right guys, checking in, end of the day. Everything is all wrapped up. It's 4 o'clock on a Friday, so got all the newels and everything all done with the staircase besides the railing, baluster pipe things. So that'll be the next video. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you've got any questions, let me know in the comment section. I'll do my best to answer the best I can. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next video. Thanks for watching.